Hello, Cherie Hanson here, reporting from the pod upstairs, my little hub of isolation. It's kind of like a satellite in deep space. Today I had the urge to talk about duality. I am watching people who are kind of thrashing around in the world right now. And I think that the main issue that's causing them anxiety is the fact that everything's changing so rapidly. We have to remember that the mind is constructed, the subconscious mind, the ego, is constructed to prevent damage, to prevent illness or an accident or death. And so the subconscious mind it's kind of like, a whole bunch of paratroopers that are landing in a village, and the men are fanning out. They've got their guns. They're going high. They're going low. They're yelling, "Clear, clear!" It's clear. It's okay. You won't have your head blown off. And so when we're built that way, one of the things that happens is we get into a place where we're constantly scanning the horizon for a threat. It's the way we're built. It's the way the mind works. It's the way the ego works. And of course, 90% of our thinking comes from what happened to us under the age of 7. So what I often say about that is we are fighting a war that we already lost. We lost it under the age of 7. So it helps me to put distance between the thoughts I'm having and what could be another reality I could be living in, which is a reality of love and trust and oneness, which is where I'm desiring to live. And so what I see with people is I see them being activated in a very negative way. Triggered, activated, fearful. If I know that this is a good thing or a bad thing, then I will protect myself. And that is the delusion of duality that runs our lives. Something is either good or it's bad. It's good for you or it's bad for you. We look at duality in everything because if you think of yourself like somebody who's imprinted, there's a hot branding iron that's been pressed down into you from your ancestors, from the culture, from your cohort, from the media, everything around you, that you've been marked deeply by this branding to believe that there are only two possibilities. A leader is either a good leader or a bad leader. There is only up or down. There is only, opportunity or imprisonment. So everything that we look at with this mind is imprinted with duality. Now, the thing that I like about Buddhist practice, about spiritual practice, is there is the core belief that we are all one. We are all one energy. We are all one flow of this electric connection to one another. And in the ceremonies I have been in the experiences I've had in my life, I can say with full confidence that that's just a con game. It's a con game that keeps us trapped. First of all, if you read Jung, the transcendentalists, if you go to native elders, if you go to people who are connected deeply to the earth, they all tell the same story. And the story is that we are all one energy. And now we have quantum physics to back it up. So I understand and I look with compassion at people who are furiously trying to make a decision based on duality. It is either bad or it is good. Now, when you get into the area of the subtle mind, it's very confusing because sometimes the worse it is, the better it is. And most people who hear that are living in the 3D world go, what? I don't know what the hell you're saying. So we come to a place where we have to give up being right. Hey, this is like a sacrifice. I'm going to take my urge to be right, and I am going to kill it on a stone in the full of the moon. Because we can't be right. When we say something is correct, we say that if we get on a train and it's a steam train and we're going 10 miles an hour, our brains will explode. That's what used to be right in the past. That's what used to be a shared truth in the past. If you have a stutter, you need to put a frog on your tongue. This is the truth if you go back in our history. So this is one of the reasons why I am so fascinated by cultural history, because cultural history teaches us that over and over again, the direction of the culture, the belief systems of the culture, the paradigm of the culture shifts. It's not a monolith. It's not a solid thing. It is constantly in flow. And that can be very confusing when we're in a time that is constantly in flow. What I saw the other day from a social scientist I thought was fascinating. In the past, we were handed the 10 commandments of reality. You know, Moses came down off of the mountain and, you went to high school, you went to university, and you were handed these tablets that if you do this and this and this, you will have rewards, you will be protected, you won't get sick. And then that lasted for about 11 years. A person could train for a job and could go to the job and could expect to use those tablets, those laws, to work the reality of that job. Today's world, Where we are is that the information that we have received today will only last 3 months. I want you to stop for a minute and think about that. It's like an app. Reality's like an app. You download this app onto your phone, you learn how to use the app, and then they change the app and you use it a different way. Thinking about the BC Med card for the phone, which doesn't work, you can't register. If you do manage to register, you can't get through to the vaccination line. And we're constantly coming up against this break, which is a change, which is a different reality forming, which is asking us, and I had dance for so many years, I always vision this in my mind, is like the dance teacher, you think you're doing the splits and the dance teacher comes along and goes, like, you can do more, you can be more flexible, we can just twist you. And so this is what it feels like is happening in our minds. People are so invested in the reality that they were taught because that's their safe place. If your bodyguards go into a room first and they can't see what the dangers are, how the hell do you protect yourself? If your ego is working the way it's supposed to protect you, it will see only 2 choices. Only 2. This is bad and this is good. And when you get into teachings that are more ancient, it's very confusing because what the teachings all say, what quantum physics and the wise one and Jung and the transcendentalists and people who are in tune to the spirit of energy in the universe say, is that we cannot know if this is a good thing or a bad thing yet. So what am I left with? If I can't go through all of the apples that are on the conveyor belt and take out the rotten ones and throw them away and say this is a good apple, then how do I discern? How do I make choices? How can I possibly protect myself in a place that's so chaotic and so rapidly changing? And the answer to that is we're being asked to let go of outside influences. The only way that I know what works for me is to look inside myself. If I do something and it makes me feel full-hearted, and that's the place we read. If I feel full-hearted, if I feel just warm and expansive, and what I call it is fluffy. I look for the fluffy. Does this feel fluffy? Okay, it's good then. I'll do this. And we're so insecure in ourselves, and I speak for myself. I mean, I'm not calling out anybody else. This is all about me. So insecure that we look to other people to pat us on the head and tell us this was a good thing. You did a good thing. Well, what if your internal compass is screaming and saying, no, I don't like this. It doesn't feel good. Do we give up being who we are so that we can satisfy outside people? It's a tough road we're on right now. It's really tough because it means we have to begin to understand who we are. And oh my God, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We just want somebody to give us a damn certificate saying that we have been validated. One of the things I love to do was when I use my visa and it says you have been validated, I always laugh. I'm like, yeah, that's what I was looking for. I want my transaction to be validated. Yay! So where are we? This is the big question right now. Where are we? Are we inside ourselves? Are we inside and outside ourselves? Are we fluctuating? Are we depending on our social signaling to tell us if we're a good enough person? Are we following a leader? Are we blindly following somebody outside of ourselves to give us a sense of security and validation? Or are we doing the hard work and turning inside and asking, does this make me feel fluffy? There is no such thing as duality. It is a delusion. Because everything is far more complex than good or bad. The Black Plague was horrendous. There was a town in Eastern Europe that had 2,000 people and only 3 people survived. That was a horrible thing. And yet, after the Black Plague, there was this immense surge of creativity, and the middle class grew up, and all kinds of new ways of living and expressing the self grew. Was the Black Plague a bad thing? Yes. Was the Black Plague a positive influence? Yes. And this is where we have to bend our minds like the dance teacher. Come on, we could get our legs further apart. And that is, it can be both a bad thing and a good thing. It just depends on how we use it inside ourselves. So, duality, duh. It doesn't exist. And I wanted to share that with you today. It really came in strong for me. You can tell. I get all preachery. Thank you so much for the people who are subscribing. I ask you to stop right now and subscribe to my channel to help me get the message out. My entire goal is to just make it less horrific to go through these transitions. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your kind comments, for the thumbs up. And if you want to get a hold of me for life coaching, I did so many things so badly, and I went down the wrong path so far that I can really give you information about that. And I'm going to say to you, as I always do, I really appreciate you.